in respiration how the absorbed food is converted into energy. So now we see that there are so many activities, for example digestion, which take place inside our body. So, and in order to perform all these activities, energy is needed. So from where does this energy come from? The energy comes from food which we eat. So we already saw that this food got digested. Where was the food digested? It was digested partly in stomach and partly in the small intestine. We also saw that the food got well absorbed. Where was it absorbed? It was absorbed in the ileum and jejunum of small intestine, right? The absorbed food was then assimilated as well. Assimilated means the food's energy was stored in the assimilated molecules. That means the assimilated molecules hold the energy. So till this point we have already talked about in nutrition, right? Now the question is, how is this energy released so that we can utilize this energy for various activities? Because till now we only see that there are some molecules which hold energy. That means the food which is digested and absorbed is now present in some molecules, but how do we free that energy so that that energy can be used for other purposes? So how are we going to get that energy release? So that is what we are going to talk about in respiration. So the question is how this energy is released. So this is what we are going to talk about in respiration. So respiration says that this energy is released by oxidation of the assimilated molecules. So what does respiration say? That the energy is released by oxidation of the assimilated molecules. So now how oxidation will take place? So for oxidation of these molecules, we will need oxygen. So how do we get that oxygen? Now oxygen is present in the atmosphere, that we all know, right? There is 21% of oxygen present in the atmosphere. So for that we need to take that oxygen from the atmosphere. So respiration will talk about this exchange of gases, like the way for photosynthesis plants needed carbon dioxide. Similarly, for respiration, animals need oxygen. So the oxygen has to be taken in from the atmosphere, right? So this respiration will talk about the oxidation of food to produce energy, and it will also talk about how do organisms obtain oxygen from external environment. Now this phenomenon of respiration happens not only in case of animals but in plants. In fact, it happens in all living organisms, right? So here we will now talk about the process of respiration. So what happens in respiration? As I mentioned, oxidation of assimilated molecules releases their bond energy, because till the process of once the food is absorbed, their energy is stored inside molecules. So their energy is stored as the bond energy of the molecules. So we want to free that energy. We want that energy to get released. So what happens? Oxidation of the assimilated molecules. What are these assimilated molecules? They are nothing but the simple food particles, because the complex food was converted into the most simple form. So simplest form of food would mean glucose. So this glucose will be oxidized, and this oxidation of glucose, this glucose is nothing but the assimilated molecules. So this glucose in presence of oxygen will give carbon dioxide plus water plus energy, and this energy is what we are looking at. So this energy is actually the energy which will be the released energy, or which will be utilized for the various activities happening inside the body. Now this glucose is not only in the form of exact glucose or any other food materials which provide materials needed to create glucose. For example, when we take sweet foods, they are a rich source of glucose themselves, the sweet foods, while other foods provide materials which are needed to create glucose. So end of the day, when those complex food materials get converted into simpler and simpler forms, at the end we receive some simple thing like glucose. So this simplest form will get oxidized in presence of oxygen, and it will form carbon dioxide, water and energy. So this carbon dioxide will then be released out, because again this carbon dioxide is a byproduct of respiration. I mean, it is something which we don't want it, so we will release it. So the carbon dioxide is released out. And this energy, how is this released energy stored? This energy is stored as ATP. What is ATP? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. The molecule looks like this. It is adenosine triphosphate. So this is the adenosine group and this is triphosphate. You see there are 3 phosphate groups, 1, 2 and 3. Right? So this is adenosine triphosphate. Now the question is, now you must be wondering, what is this adenosine triphosphate or ATP? Now the energy which is released, there has to be some way to keep that energy in store. For example, I'll give you a scenario. Let us suppose you need money for various stuffs. For example, sometimes you need money to buy a pencil, sometimes you need money to buy notebooks, sometimes you need money to buy some food items, right? So from where do you get that money? So you ask your dad to give you some money. So what he does, he gives you rupees 100 daily for your expenses, right? So what is that 100? That 100 is a denomination, or this 100 is a currency. So every day he keeps giving you 100 and you keep spending according to your own needs. Now sometimes if, let us suppose that you suddenly got too much of expenses, so maybe that 100 is not enough. So you ask your dad that give me some more money. So maybe he will give you 200 or 300. So as you keep asking, he keeps giving you. So what is your dad? He is actually the reservoir, or he is actually the store of money. And what is this 100? This 100 is nothing but a kind of currency. So every time you ask money, he gives you another 100. It is something like that. So the more money you need, the more number of 100 rupee note you get. Correct? So similarly here also, the amount of energy which is released, it is stored as ATP molecules. So whenever the cells need energy, now who will use this energy? This energy will actually be utilized by the cells of the body, because cells are the ones who are performing the various functions of the body, all the metabolic activities. Now each cell needs energy to perform various activities. Now whenever a cell needs energy, ATP molecule is provided to them. Let us suppose if a cell says that I need more energy, some emergency has come, then more number of ATP molecules are given. So more energy needed by a cell, more ATP molecules are given. So these ATP molecules are nothing but they are a kind of currency of energy. So whatever energy is released, they are stored as ATP molecules. So if we talk in this term that 8 ATP molecules is given to this cell, 10 ATP molecules is given to this cell. Right? So it is a kind of currency which behave as a storage of this energy. So now you understand what is the process of respiration. Respiration is basically oxidation of the assimilated molecules so that their bond energy gets converted into released energy, which can be utilized for various activities which take place inside the body. So how is this energy stored? This energy is stored in the form of adenosine triphosphate molecules. So whenever a cell needs energy, ATP molecules are given to that cell. Whenever the energy requirement is more number of ATP molecules are given. Right? Okay, so now let us see what is respiration. Let us try to define respiration. So respiration has got two aspects. One aspect is the oxidation of the assimilated molecules. The other aspect is the way by which it obtains oxygen, because we saw in the previous slide that for oxidation of that molecule, oxygen was needed. So how to obtain that oxygen? So that is to be obtained from outside. So that gaseous exchange is another aspect of respiration. So respiration is a life process which involves intake of oxygen from surroundings, right? Now using that oxygen, oxidation of food, so the oxidation of the assimilated molecules, using that oxygen itself, release of energy, so when the food is oxidized, energy will be released. Elimination of carbon dioxide, which is produced as a byproduct. So as you saw the equation for respiration, we saw that carbon dioxide is an extra thing which is getting produced, and we do not want to store those extra things. So we have to eliminate carbon dioxide. So what are the things which we deal with in respiration? Intake of oxygen, removal of CO2, and oxidation of food. So all these things together constitutes the process of respiration, right? So what do we conclude? We conclude that in this entire process, gaseous exchange takes place. How? Oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is given out. So that means exchange of gases is taking place. So exchange of gases is one aspect of respiration. What is the other aspect of respiration? The second aspect of respiration is oxidation of the assimilated food molecules. So one aspect is exchange of gases and the second aspect is oxidation of food. Right? Now what happens in case of respiration? Oxygen is taken in. Now for let us take the example of human beings. How do we take in oxygen? With the help of our nostrils, right? So this oxygen enters through our nostrils, and where does it go? It basically reaches our lungs. So these are our lungs. So the oxygen will actually enter through the nostrils and it will finally reach the lungs. Right? So from lungs, the oxygen will then reach the blood, and from blood it will reach all the cells. So that is how oxygen is taken in. Right? Now how this transfer actually takes place, that is how oxygen reaches from nostrils to lungs, how it reaches from lungs to blood, and how it reaches from blood to cells, that is what we are going to study in the coming slides. So for now, I hope you understood what is the process of respiration. Now many people think that whenever we talk about respiration, many people feel that respiration is all about taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. They sometimes ignore this second part of respiration, which is very, very important. Right? So many people think that respiration is same as breathing. There is no difference between respiration and breathing, but it is not like that. There is a big difference between respiration and breathing. Now when I talk about respiration, respiration has got two different aspects. One is internal respiration and the other one is external respiration. So when I talk of internal respiration, internally what is happening during the process of respiration? Oxidation. So oxidation of food. That comes under internal respiration because it is happening internally. We are not able to see this. And what comes under external respiration? External respiration talks about exchange of gases, because that is something which is happening externally. We can see people exchanging gases. We can see that when we breathe in air, we are actually taking in oxygen. When we breathe out, we are giving out carbon dioxide. So that is external respiration because we can see the exchange of gases externally. Right? So what exactly is the flow of respiration? Now from the environment, fresh air is taken in. Now fresh air contains a lot of oxygen, so oxygen enters into the body. So where does this oxygen go? It is taken through the nostrils and then it finally reaches the lungs of our body, because lungs are the main organs of respiration. So from lungs, they goes to the blood. From blood, they reach the cells finally. Right? Now the cells are the places where actually oxidation of food takes place. I mean, as we were talking about that oxidation of the assimilated molecules. So that process actually takes place in the cells. That is, internal respiration takes place inside cells. Now when internal respiration takes place inside cells, what will happen? Carbon dioxide will be produced in the cells. So what will the cells do? Cells will throw out the carbon dioxide outside. So these carbon dioxide will then go to the blood. Blood will carry this carbon dioxide back to the lungs. The lungs will again throw these carbon dioxide through nostril when the person exhales. So this carbon dioxide is finally exhaled through the nostrils. So this is the entire process of respiration. So we can see that respiration is not just about taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. It has something more to do. So how do we differentiate between respiration and breathing? Respiration is a biochemical process, whereas breathing is a physical process. So breathing is all about, that means taking in and giving out. So that is all about breathing. So we have nothing to do with, there are no chemical equations involved. There is no chemical reaction which is taking place during breathing. So it is just a physical process where we breathe in and breathe out. When I talk of respiration, it is a biochemical process. Biochemical means some chemical reactions take place in different parts of the living organisms. For example, you saw the oxidation of food is taking place inside the body. So some chemical reactions are actually happening. So it is a biochemical process. Respiration is both extracellular and intracellular. That means within the cell also certain things are happening. For example, oxidation of food takes place within the cell, so that is intracellular, but at the same time there are some extracellular things happening, that is the exchange of gases. But breathing is all about extracellular. It is just exchange of gases. In respiration, enzymes action involved. Because in respiration chemical equation is involved, therefore enzyme actions are involved. In breathing, no enzymes involved. Respiration, energy is released. In breathing, there is no energy released, because when we define respiration, what do we say? It is the process by which energy is released from the assimilated food molecules, right? But when I talk of breathing, breathing is nothing, it is just exchange of gases. So in respiration, the important thing is internal respiration. But for that internal respiration to take place, we need oxygen. So that is why we have external respiration. So respiration mainly talks about the fact that a lot of energy is released, but in breathing there is no energy released. In respiration, all body cells are involved. This oxidation of food molecules, this takes place in each and every cell of the body. Whereas in breathing, only certain organs are involved, because when we breathe in or breathe out, it is only our nostrils and some other organs which are involved for breathing. So we will talk about the organs, or we will talk about the human respiratory system in detail. Then you will come to know what are the organs which are involved in breathing. Right? So now you understand the difference between respiration and breathing. Breathing is just a physical process of exchange of gases. But respiration is a lot more beyond that. It is an exchange of gases. Along with that, there is oxidation of food which takes place inside each and every cell of the body. And this oxidation releases a huge amount. So with this basic introduction on respiration, let us now talk about the types of respiration. There are two types of respiration: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic, the word aero, it means air. So respiration which happens in presence of air. Air is oxygen. So that is respiration which takes place in presence of oxygen is known as aerobic respiration. Anaerobic is just the opposite. That means the respiration which takes place in absence of oxygen is anaerobic respiration. So you might have got this misconception that oxidation of the assimilated molecules, because we have this term oxidation, it should always need oxygen, but it is not like that. Oxidation of food molecules can take place even without oxygen. So we will have a look at that when we talk about anaerobic respiration. So let us first talk about the aerobic respiration. Here, oxidation of food releases energy, and oxidation of food takes place in presence of oxygen. So let us look at the process of aerobic respiration step by step. So let us look at each of the steps. So the first step that happens is glycolysis. So what happens in glycolysis? It occurs in the cytoplasm of a cell. We are all aware of the terminologies, right? Cytoplasm is nothing but the fluid matter present in the cell. So it occurs in cytoplasm. For this glycolysis step, no oxygen is needed. So here we do not need any oxygen. So this step is something which is common to both aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So in both of them, first of all, what happens is in the cytoplasm, one molecule of glucose gets converted into two molecules of pyruvate. What is pyruvate? It is nothing but pyruvic acid. So what happens? A glucose molecule, that is C6H12O6, this glucose molecule, which is a 6 carbon molecule, because there are 6 carbon present in this. So it gets converted into little simpler form. In pyruvate, we have 3 carbon molecules. So the structure of pyruvate looks somewhat like this. So how many carbon we have? We have here 3 carbon. So pyruvate is a 3 carbon molecule. Now along with that, there is a net gain of 2 ATP molecules. So 2 ATP molecules are also produced here. So actually 4 ATP molecules are produced, but in this process 2 of the ATP molecules are utilized by this 6 carbon molecule. So as a result, the net ATP yield is 2 ATP molecules. As I mentioned before only, that the energy which is released is in the form of ATP molecules. So the first step in aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration is that the glucose, which is a 6 carbon compound, gets converted into a 3 carbon compound. So one molecule of glucose gets converted into 2 molecules of pyruvate. So that means the compound became little simpler, right? And at the same time, some energy is also released. That is, some 2 ATP molecules are released. So now what happens to this pyruvate? This pyruvate, which was created in the cytoplasm, will now move to the mitochondria. You remember what is mitochondria? It is the powerhouse of a cell. It is the cell organelle where actually energy generation takes place. So this pyruvate will move to mitochondria, and in mitochondria it will lose carbon dioxide and thereby form acetyl coenzyme A. So what happens? So this is the pyruvate. So this pyruvate, in presence of an enzyme called coenzyme A, what will happen? It will release one carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide will be released. And if carbon dioxide is released from here, so CO2 is gone. So what is left with? The acetyl group is left. So that means this acetyl group is left. So this acetyl group will combine with this enzyme called coenzyme A, and it will form acetyl coenzyme A. So you understood? This pyruvate, in presence of an enzyme called coenzyme A, it will lose carbon dioxide. So the remaining is the acetyl group. This acetyl group will combine with coenzyme A and it will form acetyl coenzyme A. So we call this as acetyl coenzyme A. So this acetyl coenzyme A is formed. So where is acetyl coenzyme A formed? It is formed in the mitochondria. Now the next step. So this is my step. This glycolysis was step 1. Krebs cycle is the step 2. And this is an intermediate step between 1 and 2. So in Krebs cycle, it occurs in the matrix of mitochondria. So you remember what is mitochondria? The yellow colored structure which you see inside this cell, that is mitochondria. So if you look at the structure of mitochondria in detail, you can see what is matrix. Matrix is again this blue colored thing. That is the fluid which fills the space inside mitochondria. That is matrix. This outside membrane, which is shown in red color, that is the outer membrane. This is red colored border is the outer membrane. And this yellow colored border outside the matrix, that is the inner membrane. Right? So the Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix of mitochondria. That means within this blue colored structure. So what will happen here? This acetyl coenzyme A, which was formed before, this acetyl coenzyme A will get oxidized in presence of oxygen. So that means acetyl coenzyme A in presence of oxygen. So what will it form? It will form carbon dioxide plus 2 ATP molecules plus some hydrogen carrier molecules. Plus some hydrogen carrier molecules. So here we are not going into the very much detail of each of these equations, because there are other molecules also which are involved in these equations, but at this level I don't want to make things complex. So that is why I am giving you a rough idea about how the things happen in aerobic respiration. So in your higher classes you will learn about these equations in even more detail. So for now you can just see that this acetyl coenzyme A in presence of oxygen will give two molecules of ATP. It will form carbon dioxide, and some hydrogen carrier molecules will also be formed. So what is the total ATP yield here? 2 ATP molecules are again produced here. So in glycolysis, 2 ATP molecules were produced. Again in Krebs cycle, 2 ATP molecule was produced. So now you can see that in this step oxygen is needed, and that is why it is aerobic respiration. Now what happens? What is the third step? The third step is electron transport. What do I mean by electron transport? Now what this process takes place in the inner membrane of mitochondria. That means in this membrane, the yellow colored structure. So what happens here? The hydrogen carrier molecules which were produced in the previous step. What are those hydrogen carrier molecules which were produced? They were only NADH and FADH2. A lot of NADH molecules are produced. So we will not go into the detail of these molecules. So you just understand that the hydrogen carrier molecules which were produced in the previous steps, what are they? They actually have high energy hydrogen atoms. That is why they are called hydrogen carrier molecules. That means molecules which are carrying high energy hydrogen atoms. Now these molecules are brought to electron transport system. So what happens is that these molecules start carrying electrons to the electron transport system. The high hydrogen carrier molecules are brought into the electron transport system within the mitochondria. So this will happen inside mitochondria. In fact, it will happen on the inner membrane of mitochondria. So what will happen? The hydrogen molecules which were at higher energy levels are brought down to lower energy levels. And in this process, eventually a very large amount of energy is released. So what basically happens here is high energy hydrogen molecules are brought to lower energy levels. And during this process, a lot of energy is produced. So how many ATP molecules are produced here? 34 ATP molecules. So now you can understand how much more energy is produced in this step. In the first two steps, only 2 ATP molecules were getting produced. But in this step, 34 ATP molecules are getting produced. So a huge amount of energy will get produced during this electron transport. So what is the total process? We can review it. The first step is glycolysis, where the glucose molecule, which was a 6-carbon molecule, gets converted into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon compound. In the next step, the 3-carbon compound pyruvate enters into the mitochondria. It loses 1 carbon dioxide, and in presence of an enzyme called coenzyme A, it forms acetyl coenzyme A. So this acetyl coenzyme A then enters into the matrix of mitochondria, and in presence of oxygen, it forms carbon dioxide and 2 molecules of ATP and a lot of hydrogen carrier molecules. These hydrogen carrier molecules are those which have high energy hydrogen atoms. Now, these hydrogen carrier molecules are then brought into the electron transport system, and the hydrogen atoms which were at very high energy levels were brought to lower energy levels, and during this process a large amount of energy is produced, and the total yield of ATP is 34 ATP molecules. So now if we combine all these steps, so what will be the overall equation for aerobic respiration? It will be glucose plus oxygen. So glucose in presence of oxygen will give CO2 plus H2O plus 36 ATP molecules. How 36? In electron transport itself we have 34 ATP molecules, and in the Krebs cycle we have 2 ATP molecules. So that is 36. Now if we even include the glycolysis part, which is common to both aerobic and anaerobic, so if we include that also, then you can say that it is 38. So in many places you will see that it says that in aerobic respiration 36 to 38 molecules of ATP are produced. So it is 36 when you only include the aerobic respiration part. That means when you only include the part which involves oxygen. It is 38 when you also include the glycolysis part. So this is the overall equation of aerobic respiration. Now let us look at anaerobic respiration. That means breakdown of food to release energy in absence of oxygen. So we do not involve oxygen here. So here also let us look at it stepwise. So the first step will again remain the same, that is glycolysis. It will occur in the cytoplasm. One molecule of glucose will get converted into two molecules of pyruvate, that is C6H12O6 will get converted into two molecules of pyruvate. So what is pyruvate? It is COOCH3 and 2 ATP molecules will be produced. So the net ATP yield is 2 ATP molecules, right? Now the next step. So now here we are not going to involve oxygen. Now this anaerobic respiration is not very commonly found. It is found only in certain organisms. Now the anaerobic respiration is seen in yeast. What is yeast? Yeast belongs to the fungi. It is a kind of fungi. So in fungi it is seen that respiration takes place in absence of oxygen, and anaerobic respiration in yeast is known as fermentation. So fermentation is the word which is used for anaerobic respiration in yeast. So what happens there is, this pyruvate which was formed during glycolysis is converted into ethanol, and for this conversion it does not need any kind of cytoplasm, it does not need any oxygen, and this takes place in the cytoplasm. So it doesn't happen inside the mitochondria, it happens in the cytoplasm itself. So what happens? Pyruvate which was formed in the previous step, which is a 3-carbon compound, it gets converted into ethanol, that is C2H5OH plus CO2 plus energy. So here this is a 2-carbon compound. So the 3-carbon compound is further reduced to a 2-carbon compound. Carbon dioxide is released and some energy is also released. So the energy which is released here is then utilized for different purposes, right? So that is anaerobic respiration in yeast. So this is how the respiration will take place. But here you can see the end compound is ethanol. But in case of aerobic respiration, what was the end compound? It was carbon dioxide. So in case of aerobic respiration, complete oxidation was taking place because the products which you were getting were in the simplest forms, right? But in this case, you can see that the last product is ethanol, which is a 2-carbon compound and not a 1-carbon compound. So here incomplete oxidation takes place. That is, there is more scope of oxidation, but it doesn't take place, right? Okay. Now, other places, at other situations where we see anaerobic respiration it is also seen in some bacteria, parasitic worms, even in the human muscle cells. So there also anaerobic respiration takes place. So what happens there? There also it happens in cytoplasm, but there the pyruvate gets converted into lactic acid instead of ethanol. So what happens? This pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon compound, in the cytoplasm gets converted into lactic acid plus energy. So what is lactic acid? So the structure of lactic acid is somewhat like this. So how many carbon compound is lactic acid? It is again a 3-carbon compound. So here also you see that complete oxidation had not taken place, but the conversion of pyruvate into lactic acid is also giving out some energy. So where do you see this? When do you see this in the human muscle cells? Because normally in human beings aerobic respiration takes place, right? We take in oxygen, and in presence of that oxygen, oxidation of food happens inside the cells of our body. But sometimes it is seen that when a person does a lot of vigorous exercise, so he needs more and more energy. So whenever you do any kind of physical activity, your energy need increases. So in the muscle cells, when you are doing some exercise, sometimes they do not get sufficient oxygen for aerobic respiration, because in order to generate energy, you need to do the oxidation of food had to take place inside. Now in the muscle cells, when you do not have sufficient oxygen for that oxidation, then this anaerobic respiration takes place. That means the pyruvate gets converted into lactic acid, and this energy which is released is then used for that exercise purpose. Now that is why sometimes you would have seen that when people do lot of vigorous exercise, sometimes they tend to have some pain in their bodies. That is due to the accumulation of these lactic acid, because as this process of anaerobic respiration is continuing, more and more lactic acid is being formed and it gets accumulated inside the muscle cells. So sometimes they might give some kind of pain. So these kind of anaerobic respiration also happens in some bacteria and parasitic worms. So what do we see in anaerobic respiration? The amount of energy which is released is very less when compared to aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration there were almost 36 to 38 molecules of ATP which were produced, but in anaerobic respiration, if you see, there are some 2 molecules of ATP which are produced, which is very less. So anaerobic respiration leaves a lot of energy in ethanol or the lactate molecules that the cell can't use and must excrete. So as I said before also, now when these anaerobic respiration keeps happening, a lot of lactic acid keeps accumulating. Similarly, in fermentation, a lot of ethanol keeps accumulating. So this anaerobic respiration actually leaves a lot of energy in the ethanol or in the lactic acid, which the cell can't use, and therefore it needs to be excreted or it needs to be thrown out of the body. Right? So I hope with this you got good idea about aerobic and anaerobic respiration. You understood what are they, right? So let us look at the different pathways of glucose breakdown to release energy. So we saw that there were many different ways, there are many different paths by which glucose can break down into simpler forms to release energy. So one way, the first thing is glucose has to convert into pyruvate. What is this? The process is glycolysis, and this happens in the cytoplasm of cells. Right, so first of all, the 6-carbon glucose has to convert into 3-carbon pyruvate, and the process is known as glycolysis, and it happens in the cytoplasm. Now there are 3 different ways by which pyruvate can break down into simpler molecules, releasing a lot of energy. The first is aerobic respiration. So first one is aerobic respiration, which happens in presence of oxygen. In that case, what happens? Carbon dioxide, water, and a lot of energy is released. So good amount of energy is released here in this case. Another option is anaerobic respiration. So in anaerobic respiration, there are 2 ways again. It can either form lactic acid or it can form ethanol. But in both these cases, you see that this 3-carbon compound will actually form, when it forms lactic acid, it is again forming a 3-carbon compound. When it forms ethanol, it is forming a 2-carbon compound, right? But when it forms carbon dioxide and hydrogen, you see it is in the simplest form. So in this case, in the case of aerobic respiration, complete oxidation is happening. But in case of anaerobic respiration, incomplete oxidation is happening. But these are the different pathways by which breakdown of glucose to release energy can happen. That means respiration can happen in so many different ways. So let us now differentiate between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. The first thing, aerobic respiration will happen in presence of oxygen, anaerobic in absence of oxygen. In aerobic respiration, complete oxidation occurs, and that is why the end products are CO2 and H2O. Here incomplete oxidation occurs, and therefore the end products are 2-carbon molecule like ethyl alcohol or 3-carbon molecule like lactic acid. The net ATP yield in aerobic respiration is 38 ATP molecules, whereas in anaerobic it is just 2 ATP molecules. So very less amount of energy is released in case of anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration occurs in most plants and animals. As I said, in most of the living organisms we see aerobic respiration. Only in certain bacteria, worms and human muscle cells is seen the anaerobic respiration, and also in yeast. A part of aerobic respiration occurs in cytoplasm, rest in mitochondria. As we saw, glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm, whereas the Krebs cycle and electron transport occurs in the mitochondria. But in case of anaerobic respiration, the complete process occurs in the cytoplasm. So these are some of the important differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So far we saw that during respiration, the energy which was accumulated in the assimilated molecules got released. Now where do we use this energy which was released during respiration? Now there are a couple of activities which this energy is actually used for. First is synthesis of larger molecules from smaller ones. Examples, let us look at proteins. You can see in the picture, right? These are proteins. So, I'm sure it looks little complex, and that is how they are. So, proteins are nothing but they are formed by too many amino acids joined together. So, you can see small amino acids which join together to form this larger molecule. So now for formation of larger molecules from smaller molecules, a lot of energy is needed. So the energy which is released during respiration is used for this purpose. For growth and repair of cells, that means inside our body there are so many cells. So those cells, growth of cells would mean the increase in number of cells or the increase in size of cells. So for that also they need energy, or if a cell gets damaged, it needs to be repaired, even that needs energy. So all this energy is again supplied by respiration, allowing chemical reactions to take place inside the body. We just now saw, right, that there were so many chemical reactions which are actually happening inside our body. For example, respiration itself is a chemical reaction which is taking place. Even during digestion, when the enzymes act on the food particle to digest it, so what is that? That is also a kind of chemical reaction. Right? So for these chemical reactions to take place, also we need energy. Maintain body temperature for warm-blooded animals like mammals and bird. We have already discussed about what are warm-blooded animals in class 9, right? So what are warm-blooded animals? Those animals which maintain their body temperature to a constant value. They always try to keep their body temperature constant. For example, human beings. So this example you can take that, let us suppose if it is very hot outside. So what should happen? Does it happen that even our body temperature increases? But what does our body do? Our body tends to lower down the temperature of our body. So what does it do? It starts sweating. So when we start sweating, due to the presence of water on our body, we tend to decrease the body temperature. That means we don't allow our body temperature to be ruled by the external temperature. Right? So we always try to keep our temperature kind of constant. But whereas if we look at reptiles or fishes, they are cold-blooded animals. That means they take on the temperature of the surroundings. If the surroundings is very cold, their body temperature is also very cold. If the surroundings are very hot, their body temperature also is very hot. Right? So in order to maintain the body temperature, we need some energy. Some energy needs to be converted into this heat energy. So this energy is also supplied by respiration. For movement of animals, like for example, we human beings, we move, we run, we jump, we do all kind of physical activities. So that also needs energy, which is again supplied by respiration. Message transferred through nerves. So when we talk about, in this lesson, we are not going to talk about the nervous system. That is the system which actually tells us how we react to things. For example, when we touch something which is extremely hot, we take our hands back. Why? Because our brain interprets that signal and says that it is hot. So this transfer of information through the nerves, even this transfer needs energy. So as I said, everything which is happening inside our body, everything needs energy. You know, right? Nothing happens for free in this world. So whatever is happening, it needs something. Only then it will happen. So what it needs energy. And who will produce this energy? The process of respiration. So these are some of the activities where the energy which is released during respiration is utilized. Muscle movements during vigorous exercise, as we saw in case of anaerobic respiration, when there is too much of movements, too much of energy is needed. And that is where we say that plants need lesser energy when compared to animals. That's because plants do not move from one place to another. So a lot of energy is saved there, whereas animals keep moving from one place to another. They run, they jump, they walk. So all these things need extra energy.